Winter is approaching, leaves are falling, and we are in control of where they land. Let's see who can collect the most acorns in Leaf. Hey gang, thanks for joining us at Tantrum House Studio 3. I'm Will Meadows.
And I'm Sara Meadows. Today we're reviewing the game Leaf from Weird City Games. It's from designer Tim Eisner and features artwork from Angela Riza and graphic design from Angie Knowles.
Leaf is a 1 to 4 player tile placement game where players are acting as the wind, controlling leaves that fall to the forest floor. We were able to snag a review copy from Tim while we were at Origins to check out, so let's take a look at the game.
On your turn in Leaf, you will spend a card to place a leaf on the forest floor.
For each leaf tip that touches an already played leaf, you will gain an action. So here, you'd gain 2 tree actions and 2 leaf actions.
Actions in the game include moving your squirrel up the tree to gain benefits,
Gaining leaf cards from the deck to play on future turns,
gaining sunshine tokens, which can be spent to progress the season and gain points.
You can gain animal cards for set collection points at the end of the game, and you can grow mushrooms, which can be used to trigger additional actions and gain you points at the end of the game as well.
When you take a mushroom action, you'll place one of your tokens on the small side on a leaf of your choice, and then later you can take another mushroom action to upgrade or grow them, and that will give you additional points at the end of the game based on how many you can have touching in adjacent leaves on the forest floor.
Also, if a leaf action that has your mushroom token on it is activated by another player, when they place their leaf, then you'll get to trigger that action as well. Now, if another player has a mushroom there as well, there are friendly ties in the game, so both players will take the action. But if one player has a full-grown mushroom and the other player has a small mushroom, then it is an area control type of mechanic, so only the one who has more growth representation there is actually going to get to score, is actually going to get to take that action.
At the end of your turn, if you have 3 sun tokens, you can spend them to move the season marker and gain acorns, which are victory points at the end of the game.
When the next season is reached, players will be able to choose one type of animal to hibernate, and at the end of the game, you'll score points for all of your sets of animals.
The game continues until 3 stacks of leaves are gone or until winter arrives, and then points are tallied and the player with the most points wins.
Leaf is going to introduce a couple of different types of mechanics in the game. You're going to be playing a card to determine which leaf you'll place, and then there's a little bit of puzzle solving that goes on when you place that leaf because you want to trigger as many actions as you can, and you're going to do that by lining up those little tips, and depending on which leaf you play, it's going to line up differently, so you got to pick the right leaf, and then you got to wait for the guy to put the leaf back because he changed his mind and he wants to play a different one. Depends on what rules you're played by. Do you touch it, you take it? There's nothing in the rules about that, but you are going to be laying out your cards, and there's a tile placement part of the game, and then there's a lot of different point salad types of things going on as well.
I think the most surprising thing about this game the first time I played it was that I didn't suspect that some of the leaves that only have like a couple of points to them were actually sometimes better ones to play because they could line up better. I assumed that, the one that has, the sweet gum or the maple that has more points to the leaf would be able to trigger more actions, but that wasn't always the case.
Right, and the thing that I was actually most impressed by was the fact that they all do line up pretty perfectly.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we've ever played where like one of your tips, you couldn't figure out a way to get all the tips to line up.
Yeah.
So when they are laid out on the table, all the tips are equidistant. They all do fit in some combination with other leaves. It looks cool on the table, and it actually surprised me how well it fit together, which was pretty neat.
Yeah. You did mention the point salad part of it. Sometimes you might place a leaf out based on, I can take 5 actions, which is like probably the most you'll be able to get in one action or one turn placing a leaf. But other times I really want mushrooms at the beginning, so I might only get 3 actions, but I'd rather get those mushrooms in place so that I can possibly gain the bonus mushroom actions quickly.
I do think the mushroom actions are the most intriguing thing in the game. I don't think you definitely don't have to like do those to win. I've won without even having any mushrooms. But the way the mushrooms work is pretty clever. You touch a tip on a mushroom leaf, it allows you to place a mushroom out, and then that is going to get triggered in a future turn.
And it can go anywhere.
Right, you can pick where you want to put it at. You might trigger 2 mushroom leaves, so you might be able to place it and grow it immediately, which means you're going to definitely get those bonuses throughout the rest of the game. However, you can't trigger your own mushroom, which means you then kind of end up avoiding that portion of the board, hoping somebody else will trigger it. There's a lot of like push and pull and hope and fingers crossed that you'll get those points. And then in the end, if you are able to get those mushrooms adjacent to each other, they do score your points that way. But again, because it's a point salad, there's a bunch of different ways you can score points and win the game.
Yeah, there's the animal cards that you're trying to do set collection with. So that is going to be based on how they come out of the deck. And for higher player counts, you're probably fighting over the cards a little bit more than the lower player counts. And then the tree mechanic with the squirrel is also interesting because your squirrel will hop over the other squirrels, and there is a bonus point value for being the highest on the tree at the end of the game. So if you push that, you're likely to get some bonus points. And then there's also trying to just gain sun tokens and speed the game up so other players don't have time to complete what they were working on long term. And you get a lot of points.
Yeah, you get acorns every time you spin those sun tokens. There's also points at the end of the game. We didn't mention all the final scoring, but you do get points for cards in your hand and for leftover sun tokens. I think it's a half point or whatever. There's a lot of different ways to get points in this, and so you do have to just kind of optimize what you're playing as you go. And your strategy or your game experience is going to change a fair amount between player counts as well. We played a couple 2-player games, and I think we've ended all of those with triggering, like I got enough acorns, or we together did, to trigger winter, and we didn't run out of leaves. And then when you play at a higher player count, you run out of leaves pretty quickly because so many people are playing them. And so you're very likely not going to get to you're not going to get to hibernate all of your animals. So that's some strategy you might need going into the game. Don't focus on animals in a high player count because you're probably not going to get a lot of them as set collection.
Unless nobody else is focusing on them, so maybe you do get, I don't know.
Yeah, no, because you're probably not going to trigger enough hibernation seasons or whatever to put a bunch of cards down there. I don't know. It'll vary. But it's kind of neat that different player counts are going to vary in your actual gameplay strategy.
Yeah. This one has very nice components. It doesn't feature plastic in the box at all, so it comes with nice little tuck boxes, which is...
holds everything and sets up everything real quick.
It makes setup quick. You just hand everybody a box with their tokens in it, and you place out the leaves are all in a nice organizer, so it makes setup decently quick, even though there's a lot of different tokens going everywhere.
Right, and I thought the iconography in the game and color, like they did a lot of good things to make the game easy to play. The first time you play it, it sounds a little overwhelming because you're like, each leaf has a different icon that does a different thing, and I don't know what each of those things do. However, as soon as you realize, like, oh, all the brown leaves are going to send you up the tree, then you don't even have to look at the icons. Like, it's intuitive when you play it, which is pretty slick.
We also got a chance to try out the Season of the Bear expansion, and it fits in the box.
Yeah, brand new. It does add 3 new modules that you can play with the game, and you can choose whether or not you're going to play them all or play them separately. It features the greater animals. It's like a set of cards that you put at the top of the board. They're powers that anybody can use throughout the course of the game, but you can only use them once per person, so you actually will mark with your mushroom token that you took that action, and they're pretty powerful actions that you want to strategically wait to use in the game.
It also features little tiles that you can mark when a season change is going to happen. It'll have an additional one-time event that will happen with those as well.
And then there are also ally cards in the deck, and so you will there's a couple different ways you can do that, but you'll basically deal everybody 2, and they pick one to keep, and it's an ongoing power that they can use throughout the game, but they can only use it during certain times in the game. There is also, I think, a variant where you can draft multiple animal cards, which we haven't done. That's what I want to try. You can draft up to 3 ally cards, and then I feel like that would be super overpowered. This game is pretty rich on resources anyway. Like when you're playing the game, you're getting 5 actions if you're smart in the way you place your leaf, and you're doing all kinds of cool stuff. This expansion just makes it even a better experience, gives you more powers, lets you break some rules, lets you do some pretty neat stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, if this sounds like something you're interested in, check out Leaf from Weird City Games. Thanks to Tim for passing on this review copy to us. And as always, thank you so much for subscribing to our channel and liking our videos here at Tantrum House.